Today on the Unburden Your Business channel, we're going to be talking about my planner system. Basically, how I manage my time, how I create routines, what habits do I try to instill and get new habits, and also my note-taking system. Because as an entrepreneur and a business owner and someone who constantly likes to learn and develop and create new things, we take notes all the time. So how do I keep it all together and how do I get everything done? So if that's interesting to you, stay tuned and listen to more. So today we're going to be talking about how to introduce life categories into your planner and into the system for your calendar and the way you spend your time. What are your annual goals and making sure you set those and align everything that you're doing on a daily basis to ensure that you are on the right path to achieve those annual goals. How to then use a system like brain dumping, creating routines, habits, and tracking to set yourself up to reach those goals and to spend your time wisely. And then lastly, how do you break that down into monthly, weekly on a planner system? So just to kind of reintroduce myself really quick so that you have some context to understand how I get a lot of things done and what it is that I'm doing is I'm a serial entrepreneur for over a decade and I'm a homeschooling mama of 3 kids. The goal of this today is to turn chaos into some clarity with better control, productivity, proper time management, and intention while giving you some tools to be able to do that. So here are the 9 categories that I have set for my life that are within my planner system. I have a section for my home, making sure that I can manage cleaning and hosting and meals and parties and celebrations and birthdays and guests and maintaining the home on a regular basis. The next one is health. That's going to be the work that I do with my mindset therapist, with tracking how many times I work out, my fitness, maybe like my mental health, emotional health, just different things for myself. When's the last time I went to the doctor? When do I have certain appointments for going and working on my health in that sense? The next one's going to be mind, which is where I work a lot on my mindset and having kind of those notes specifically to all the things that I do for working on me and developing myself personally. The next category is going to be money, making sure I'm managing my money, my finances, everything that has to do with that in personal life. And then in business, there's 2 categories within there. The next one's going to be schooling. So because I homeschool my kids, there's going to be a section there for how I plan out curriculum and all the things that we're going to do in our schedule. The next category is going to be studying because I, like I said, love to learn and develop myself when it comes to everything in life. But this is the part where I study a lot more when it comes to business. The next category is going to be my business, everything I need to know and have prepared for what I'm actually doing within my business. What are my goals for my business? What are the routines, activities, processes, projects kind of coming up within my business? The next one's going to be notes. I have a section where all my notes go into because I used to have notebooks upon notebooks and things would get lost. And I didn't have a system that was going to help me ensure that when I was taking notes for things, whether it's scratching or doing some chicken scratch on a piece of paper for the phone number to call a business that I was doing something with, or it's long form notation of something that I just learned, or kind of just like brain dumping some ideas, whatever that looks like. And lastly, the category is going to be projects, whether that's home projects, business projects, projects for myself, things that are needing to be worked out that are kind of temporary. They're not routine type things that I do on a consistent basis, but something that is project based that I know is coming up that I'm working on. It kind of goes in its own section until I can get rid of that project and or implement it into my regular life. You, however, need to think about what life categories, what are some things that you deal with on a regular basis that you can start creating categories for to really use in a planner system? What are you spending your time on all the time regularly? What are some things that are going through your mind all the time? What are some aspirations and desires you have to implement into your life and spend more time on? So what are you doing now? What could you maybe get rid of? What could you add in? And what are those things inside of different categories for your life? Once you figure out those categories, then we can move on into this next section. When you have those categories, let's say it's financial, health and wellness, travel, relationships, business, productivity, you're going to want to break down those things into annual goals that you want to achieve within those categories. So how much money do you want to make? How much do you want to save? All the things that go into the financial part. Health and wellness. Where do you want to be with your health? What are some goals that you have this year to implement? How about travel, places you want to go, things that you want to do? What about your relationships, things that you want to do within your relationships? Maybe develop certain relationships, maybe get rid of some relationships and audit the people that you're around. Maybe it's consistently having date night with your spouse. Maybe it's spending more times with friends and other family members. What are those goals and what do they look like? In your business, what are your business goals for the year? What are some things that you want to achieve? And then as far as productivity, what are some of the goals you have to how you want to spend your time more productively within this next year? What things do you want to achieve? And then what you're going to do is when you say, this is the goal for the year in these categories, I do want you to try to make it some way that could be measurable. If you decide to have date night with your husband, say, I'm going to have date night with my husband every 7 days, once a week, whatever that looks like, right? If it's health and wellness, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week. Where if it's travel, I want to have a family trip 1 time this year, and then maybe a trip just with my spouse or with my friends, like a girls trip 1 time this year. Having a numerical goal that's attached to this is what's going to help you be able to track and understand if you are on the right path. When you figure out what that is for the year, you're going to want to break it down as much as you can into a quarterly micro goal that's going to help you achieve this annual goal. So if you decide you want to go on a girls trip this year, obviously that's once within the year, but break it down per quarter of the things you have to do to ensure that you're on the right track through time to make sure that goal gets achieved by the end of the year. The next thing that you're going to do is based on your goals that you just placed and decided on off your life categories is what habits do you need to have and to track to achieve what you want? If you decide you want to go on a girls trip this year, then you know you need to get in touch with friends that want to go. You need to book a flight, book a hotel, figure out what you guys are going to do during that time, who's going to manage what, right? So kind of breaking down into the habits of maybe every single week you stay in touch until that vacation or trip happens. If it has to do with a certain amount of money that you want to save this year in your financial goal for the year, then do you need to have a certain habit every day, every week, every month, every year, every quarter to get yourself up to that point? What is that habit that you need to instill? What do you to achieve what you want? So how often is that going to happen? When are you going to do it? Actually have a set time and date that you're going to do this. And then how are you going to track that you actually get this done? At that point, once you have that, you're going to create some type of tracker to be able to keep yourself accountable and to ensure that you are on track. And if you get behind, that's okay. But this tracker is supposed to help you ensure that you are steadily getting closer and closer and chipping away at that goal so that you do achieve it at the end of the year. Then once you have that tracker of these habits and how you're going to do this, you want to make sure you're always scheduling it into your actual time that you have to be able to complete it. Because we can create a list for days, but if we don't actually put it into our planner and set time within our day or whatever it looks like to get it done, you're not going to do it. Then for all the times that there is just so much to do, this is something that I do because I have so many things on my plate. This is what I do when I feel overwhelmed, when I'm like, I don't have enough time. I don't know how I'm going to get this done. I keep thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again. And it's just mentally draining. It's too much of a mental load. This is what I do. First thing I do is I take a sheet of paper in my planner, in my system that is meant for brain dumping. And I just start dumping every thought that I have in my brain, everything that's on my to-do list, all the things that are keeping me up, what ideas I might have, just different things like that. And I just dump it all on a sheet, kind of like a list. And then what I do is I go back to my brain dump and I'll highlight or I'll color code or I'll label each thing into which life category it is in and how it aligns to my annual goals that I have set. Once I've labeled them, I will look at my calendar after I've had everything for my habits set up, and find pockets of time where I can attack some of these things on my list. I can execute on some of these things on my list. One, like I mentioned before, going to want to make sure that if you have this thought constantly coming up and then you look at your annual goals and say, none of this has anything to do with my annual goals, is this really important? And if it's not, you can immediately mentally just say, I'm not thinking about this anymore. It doesn't align with my goals. I'm done. And it's crazy how your mind will just kind of stop that. Or if it keeps coming up, you keep repeating this to yourself and eventually it's going to go away. But when you label it and you realize it does align, you have to then again find those pockets of time where you're scheduling it. So every single week after I look at my weekly calendar and I see that I have pockets of time, I will go to my brain dump list and I will say, okay, what out of this brain dump list is going to be more of a priority? Like there's a deadline, it has to happen by this time, or it's a glass ball in the air that if this glass ball drops, it's going to shatter. It's not a rubber ball in the air where if this rubber ball falls, it's going to kind of bounce and it's not super priority right now. I can maybe put it off just a little bit and take care of these things first. Find what those are and put them into those pockets of time within your calendar and get them done. Figuring out, like it says on the screen, what is urgent and what is not. And you start realizing that you're getting so much more done. The next piece is when you take a look at the goals that you had for the year and you figure out what habits you need to have to get to that goal and chip away at it, you need to understand how you're going to do this. And the way you do that is to create the how. You know you need to get this thing done and you know that it's going to happen consistently or it needs to, like a routine. And so you're going to create a routine for this particular habit and this particular task that needs to happen regularly. So you're going to go back to your list of habits. You're going to create a routine. So let's talk about something, for example. Let's say on your health and wellness, you decide that you want to start taking care of your skin better. You want to have a really good skincare routine. You're going to buy the products, let's say, but how do you actually get this done? The best way to instill a habit is to habit stack. And habit stacking just means that you add in this new habit after you do something that you do every single day, that's going to trigger you to do this habit. So if we say we're going to put this habit into scheduling it, as soon as I finish brushing my teeth in the morning, because that's something that you do every day, I'm going to then take these products and I'm going to use them this first, this first, this first, this first, and it's going to take me about this amount of time, and you create that routine, right? It's a very simple metaphor to think of a skincare routine, but it can be applied to everything that you do. Even when I have my habits of working with my money and my financials, because I know the goals that I have for the year when it comes to my money, I have something called a money routine, and I have it scheduled every single week at the same time, same place, same day. And it's non-negotiable for me because this is something that's important to me since it aligns with my annual goals. And when I go in to do my money routine, I have a routine created. Now, I've done this for a long time. I know my routine by heart. I don't have to actually go look at a routine or a process list. But in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing and I was needing to show up consistently, and creating this routine, kind of like a step-by-step process, really helped me not have to think about it too much, to just say, what's on my calendar? Great. Now it's my skincare routine. I'm not sure how to do this completely by memory yet. And so I'm going to use a piece of paper. I'm going to open my notes app. I'm going to look at my calendar. Maybe it's in your calendar, which is what I recommend in the beginning. And I'm going to follow the steps. And that allows you to show up and execute on something very easily, because you know when you have to be there. You show up, you open your checklist, you go down the list and do the things, and you're done until the next time. And so you'll look at the list of your habits, you'll create the routine, and then you're going to schedule it in on when you're going to do it and decide how often and when that's going to happen. The only way to know if you're doing well and if you're on track to achieve what it is that you've set up to do is to keep track. Small incremental steps are the only thing that are going to create huge results. And so when we decided what our life categories were, which are things that are important to us, and within those, we created some goals that we wanted to achieve. And then we decided on when we were going to do that, how we were going to put that into our time system, and what those routines look like. We are able to show up. But how do we know that we're getting the results? Well, we're going to find out that we're getting the results by tracking. The way you're going to do that is to create some type of tracking list. For example, I wanted to start a YouTube channel. That was a goal that I had. And so I created a tracker of how often, once I decided I was going to do that, I created this goal of having a certain amount of videos I was going to do per week for the year, and decided on the routine or the process of how I was going to come up with content, how I was going to record, edit, upload, schedule, and then have everything else that goes into that as a checklist and a process, standard operating procedure, whatever you want to call it, a routine, a ritual, they all basically mean the same thing. So if you're a business owner and you understand standard operating procedures, you understand that you can do this and create routines for yourself in every aspect of your life. And once I did that, I created a tracker that says YouTube videos. And I just check mark, I put the title of whatever the content is in the video, and then there's an entire routine. And I check mark that I've done each one. If I have to step away, I get to go back to my tracker and say, where did I leave off? And I can pick up from where I left off. But this way I can visually see, what did I get done within the goals that I had and the habits I'm trying to instill, and how that routine is playing a part in the results that I'm looking to achieve. So when you create this tracker, you're going to store it somewhere where you can access based on when you're doing and where you're doing these routines. And you're just going to quickly check mark or enter the data, and you're going to look at your tracker at a certain point, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, depending on what it is that you're going to want to do. For example, when I do my money routine and I'm tracking my finances and the things that I'm doing, I will look at them once a week. And then I also have a system where I look at our finances quarterly and then annually. So sometimes these trackers might have to happen at different times, but it's important that you start off with the categories that are important to you in your life. You decide on what the goals are going to be. You create which habit it is. You create the process for the habit, and then you track the habit. So now you're going to want to go into your actual calendar, your calendar part when it comes to your planner system that we talked about before. Overview. In your month, what you're going to do is overview what needs to get done in the upcoming month. You're going to write down any current focuses you have, any broken down tasks that you've decided you were going to do, any reminders or events or appointments that are coming up, maybe bills that need to be paid, maybe some checks and income that are coming in, etc. You're going to want to spread that out over a monthly planner calendar to really see an overview of what's happening in the next month, things that you need to schedule, things that you need to reference back to, and then even thinking about what's happening in the next month. I set up my monthly calendar 1 week before the end of the month. I do my calendar and planner setup on Sundays. That is my routine. That is the time that I've had it scheduled to regularly do this particular habit within my life. And so I sit down and look at the entire month when it's the last weekend of the month for the next month, and I plan my monthly calendar based off the information. The next thing that I do is I look at the overview of the week. That happens every single Sunday. I take a look at what's upcoming for the week with a little bit more details than what I had in my monthly planner. And I look at the current focus, break down the tasks, reminders, events, appointments, bills, all the things. And this is more of a working document of just what's happening throughout the week. So it's important to understand what sections that you need to ensure that is going to help you keep you on task every single week. And it's going to be different for all of us. So when I sit down on Sundays to do my planner for the week, I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to create whatever the spread of that week looks like, whether it's digital or it's going to be handwritten. And I create that spread for the week. And then I'm going to update daily as I'm going through the week. Now, as we move on to daily, this is going to depend on you. It depends on how busy you are throughout the day. If you really need to go from a weekly spread calendar to something you need every single day, where the weekly is going to show you every day of the week. Do you need more information, more space, more detail within there because you're just that busy or there's just a lot of things? Then you're going to want to get a daily sheet, a daily spread on your digital calendar. Maybe look at the day instead of the whole entire week. That's going to depend on you. But if we're going into the daily, then this is going to depend, like I said, how busy you are. And if you want to track a few things per day, like let's say you decide you want to drink 8 glasses of water every day, then you might need a space to have that done daily where you can check off and track and kind of schedule in when you're maybe going to do that. So you're going to need a daily sheet for that type of thing. Again, this is a working document. You're going to plan, you're going to look through this calendar, this planner all day and reference it so you can make sure you're getting everything you have for that day done, and you're going to update it as needed. All right. We talked about the planner system, how I get all these things done within my life, because we literally have so many pieces of our lives. We are multifaceted. We have passions, especially as entrepreneurs. I mean, there's just so much on our plate as women, as parents. I mean, just all the things, right? And as regular human beings that also want to enjoy the best things in life. So I gave you a system. Go back and just grab some pieces of paper if you have to, hole punch them and put them in a binder. Grab a brand new notebook that maybe has dividers and just try this. Figure out what your life categories are. Figure out what your goals are. Create some of those habits and start seeing how you ensure that there's a process and a routine for you to show up and execute consistently and easily, so that you remove that friction and make it as easy as possible to execute. And then track and see how you're doing, and understand that if you are not in control of your calendar is controlling you. There is nothing on that calendar that you have not allowed and given permission and said yes to be there. You can say no to things, and you can then hone in and focus on the things you actually want to achieve and what are important to you. So I hope this helped you and that you get to use this and it brings you results.